or in a manner that is raising, attention, that helps people, to be assisted as much as possible. We are concerned about the rights that have been violated, the rights of women, the rights of children, the rights, vulnerable groups as a whole. We do not even know what is happening to people with disability at the state, to people with albinism, the elderly as well, and children. And we know once we have situation crises such as this, sexual violence becomes, common. It becomes a tool that is used against women. We are recommending and suggesting that such violations of human rights be condemned, and the leadership of this forum, also engage the SADC organ on politics, defense, and security, and the SADC chair as well, and the Troika as well, and provide some support. And I think it is possible to have a delegation from this forum that can also be part of the solution in engaging with the citizens, in ensuring that these violations of human rights comes to end. And the citizens have called for change. The citizens have called for democracy that is enjoyed in South Africa, in all the countries in the Southern Africa, in all the countries of the continent, and where we still have traditional, His Highness, His Royal Highnesses, Her Royal Highnesses, persisting, existing in these countries without any challenge that we unfolding in the Swazi. So we are calling for your attention, to draw aspiration for you, to get assistance from you, guidance and support, and for your forum to be visible, and where possible, to even get accreditation from AU level, because once you have accreditation, it's possible for us to engage you more and to understand some of the laws, African provisions that are positive, that will contribute to the development and to the building of the peaceful society based on human rights, because human rights are not a foreign concept in the continent and in Swaziland or anywhere in the continent. They are rights that Africans themselves have contributed. It's just that we Africans, we sometimes, feel that our culture or our traditions are suppressed or undermined. However, when you look at all those values in the human rights, you'll see that they have, their own origins from Africa themselves. So the tendency of, removing ourselves from leading, from playing a leadership role by stating that some of these laws are Western concept, but their original is their origin is Africa. So we are calling for your role to assist us engage, to end the violence. Many people have died. There's reports that have gone to the UN. There are reports that have gone to the African Commission for the intervention, and the SADC is currently conducting a fact-finding mission, and to ensure that the principles of the SADC, which allow participation of civil society in the regional integration processes, to be respected, and to hear all concerns of civil society and respect the rule of law and human rights in Swaziland. I'd like to end here to provide our Swazi colleagues that are going to be leading and giving the broad perspective of what is going on in Swaziland to do so. Thank you, Madam Chair, for this opportunity.
Thank you, Madam Letlhojane. You've given us a really good perspective from a human rights view, and it hadn't crossed my mind as yet on what has possibly happened with the people living with disability, people dealing with albinism. We look at the current situation we're having, and we forget that lives for other people still need to carry on, and we are the custodians of making sure that everyone is well and able to live their best life. And with that, we are going to introduce Bishop Paul Verheyen, who is the minister of the Methodist Church of Southern Africa, and he was ordained in 1978. He's been a minister for the church for 38 years. He is the superintendent of the Tsietsi Community Center, as well as the district refugee ministries. Over to you, Reverend.
Thank you for the privilege of being a part of this discussion, and I would want to pay respects to all the eminent leadership that is on this platform, and hope and pray that this engagement will lead to a deeper and more refined engagement in terms of the people themselves in Swaziland. May I first of all just express solidarity with those families who've lost loved ones in the most recent violence. One would know that when there is death in a country, as has been in Swaziland over these past days, immediately that happens, our effectiveness as leaders is called into question right across the board, whether we happen to be church, whether we happen to be kings, whether we happen to be traditional leaders. If people die in our time of governance, then we have to question ourselves very, very deeply about meeting the expectations. One of the prime expectations of people of leadership is that they will provide a place of safety. And so I would first of all want to call for, as it were, a ceasefire, because it almost feels to me as if there has been an unleashing of violence and the violation and alienation of human rights in these past few days that has been deeply, deeply, deeply disturbing. And may I just say that, of course, what we have to recognize is that it's not just the violation that has happened in these days that we have to deal with as human beings, but we do know that at the present moment, people in Swaziland are being traumatized hour by hour. People are afraid to go out onto the streets. People are afraid of being eliminated without name, without any sense of human dignity. And it's particularly disturbing that most of the protesters are actually unarmed. And so there is a very profound, unequal distribution of strength and power. It's a deeply, deeply disturbing manifestation. I would pray that all the traditional leaders, kings on this platform, queens on this platform, would be able to converse with one another profoundly in terms of what seems to be the emerging conversation that needs to happen between monarchy and democracy, and ask that consultation, that dialogue goes profoundly into power sharing, economic sharing, so that the transition that must happen in Zimbabwe, not in Zimbabwe, in Swaziland, doesn't leave a perpetuation of distance between the haves and the have-nots, but that in actual fact, the transition brings about a greater integrity and engagement between the haves and the have-nots. And then finally, I would want to plead that there be an immediate cessation of violence, and that all people on this platform emphasize that this way of dealing with our differences is ultimately going to destroy the stability of this entire continent. This is not just an Eswatini problem. It is every single country in Africa's concern. Thank you.
Thank you, Reverend. And as you rightfully say, this is not a Eswatini problem. It is an Africa problem, as it has a potential of destabilizing the whole continent. And with that, we move to the next speaker, who will also be covering on the same topic, the people's expectations from the traditional leadership and institutions. And we are going to bring forward Madam Janet Zoe, who is a confident and a committed human rights defender and international relations expert. She has worked on the capacity development policy advocacy, both in Zimbabwe and at international level, looking at social and economic justice. And with that, Madam Zoe, we ask you to take on the platform. Madam Janet. I'll just give you a few seconds. She was on the platform. Maybe she might have just had a technology issue. Madam Janet? Okay. So the technical team that I'm working with alert me once she's back online. We will carry on in the interest of time. We will carry on with the program. And as part of our rules of engagement, we do seek to be additive. It is a dialogue, and therefore there is no win posture towards an argument. And also we will allow people to then engage with us. We do have a chat box. So if you do want to drop in a comment or a question, you are welcome to do so. I do have a team that I'm working with, so they will be keeping out and looking out for the comments or questions that are added in. And we will move on to the next speaker that is on the program, Mr. Mandla Hlatshwayo. Mr. Mandla Hlatshwayo is a captain of industry. He is an influential political activist in Swaziland over the past 25 years. He is the founding member of the People's United Democratic Movement, UDEMO, which is a political party in the country that does not allow political parties to operate, the country then being Swaziland. He was invited as to be the member of the first Constitutional Review Committee in Swaziland, and a position he refused on the grounds of lack of transparency and credibility of the process. Mhlekazi Hlatshwayo, if we can ask you, sir, to take on the platform.
Thank you, Madam Chair. May I start by thanking all these prestigious majesties who are here. It is a real privilege to have the opportunity to actually share our thoughts and pain with...
Just 1 second, if I may interrupt. If it's possible for you to switch on your video.
Oh.
Unless if it's going to influence your quality of transmission.
Let's see. Is it working?
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I would like just to give a bit of a background to the evolution of the royal family in Swaziland, which takes us to the current crisis. In that effort, I will attempt to be brief. Here, I just want to first indicate that after more than 500 years of exploitation and abuse of indigenous people by colonialists. The dawn of independence was a great moment for every African. And in the case of Swaziland, the king then was Sobhuza, who was very keen to become an executive monarch. In the early debates, in fact, two of his relatives, Prince Dumisa, Princess Betusile, fought him very hard against this idea that he should be an executive monarch. Their view was that the people of Swaziland must choose their own government, and that a king must separate himself from political posturing so that he will remain genuine to the desires and aspirations of his people. Unfortunately, the two failed to persuade Sobhuza. As a result of that, Sobhuza formed his own political party. And that political party is what he took to the first elections in Swaziland in 1968. The elections were successful, the first elections for the king, because he won all the seats in the House of Assembly. In the next election, which took place in 1972, the king saw something that he had never imagined was possible. The biggest constituency, which was the southern constituency, which was really made up of the industrial areas, they actually put in, for the first time, 3 members of MPs which were from the opposition. This, for the first time, seriously challenged the royal family, because they could see that over time, they could actually be voted out of office. It was at that point that in 1973, Sobhuza decided to basically conduct a coup and issue a state of emergency, ban political parties, and remove the rights of ordinary Swazis to have freedom of association or even freedom of expression. This battle then basically moved from 1973 up to when the current king was appointed and eventually coronated in 1986. He built upon these oppressive mechanisms through which our old oppressors, the colonialists, ruled the country. If you were to look at the instruments of state that are being used to actually silence the people, crush their rights to be able to have a voice in their own society, they date back to the colonial times. They were the same rules, laws that the colonialists were actually using. What this has actually done in Swaziland is that it has produced a very unique monarch in Africa, a monarch that owns the government, a monarch that controls more than 60% of the economy. You can take every major sector in the Swazi economy. The biggest sector is sugar. Swaziland produces around 40 to 45% of the sugar that is produced in South Africa. And as a result, Swaziland controls more than 1/3 of the South African sugar industry market. Of that, the value that is driven out of sugar, more than 55% of it is personal business for the king. You have a situation whereby the land and resources under the land, they provide no value to the development of the people of Swaziland. They are value only for the king and his family. So over time, you will now have a situation where this absolute monarch has emerged as a super rich king, living in a very flashy palaces, glittering in gold and silver. We have his children wearing watches that can pay school fees for many schools in Swaziland. You have the king with jets of a size that not many African leaders have or countries have in our continent. This has actually separated the king from the aspirations of his own people because he's in competition with them over the resources of the state. You have a king that has executive power. He is the one that appoints cabinet. He appoints the judges. He appoints 20 of the 30 members of Senate in the Swazi parliament. He is the one that dictates the business of government. He determines the priorities of government. He determines his own budget. This, I just want to use it as the foundation for the cries of the ordinary people of Swaziland. You have a youth, 60% of it, which is unemployed. You have poverty in Swaziland of a magnitude that does not relate to the economic performance of the country in terms of its own wealth. What this has done is to basically give us a king whose philosophy is at variance with the aspirations and needs of the people. And the current situation that we're dealing with is the culmination of many years of frustration, of bottling up, of watching this dichotomy, where people can now see that they are poor not because their country is poor, they are poor because one man does not have the interests of ordinary people. His real interest is that of his family. So when this trigger took place, that led to the current crisis, you have a situation whereby the anger can no longer be contained by the tricks of the past. You have a situation where the demand that people are actually having is so basic that it is difficult to actually understand why the king can only respond with fire. The demands that people are actually making is to have the power to elect a government of their own choice, is to have the right to determine the affairs of the Swazi state, is to take him out of the playing field, because as the leader of politics in Swaziland, the results that we're having are not one that any Swazi really wants. The area where, as ordinary Swazis, we are hugely frustrated is that the greed, the royal greed, has not in any way been curtailed by the accumulation. The king wants more. We have communities in Vuvulani who have been on land which is very productive in Swaziland. The king has been fighting them over the years, and they are being evicted in order for the king to expand his sugar interests. You have thousands of communities that are being removed from their land in order to expand the king's business interests. It is in this kind of situation whereby it is in this kind of situation whereby the philosophy of what a king is seriously challenged in terms of the experience of the youth in Swaziland. And it is the same environment whereby we are keen to see traditional leaders of Africa standing up and telling us as ordinary citizens as to what should be the response where a king will actually embark on genocide and kill 75 people. Where is the justice for those people? We started off with a moment of silence for the departed. These are not departed. These souls were violently removed from society. They can't be peaceful wherever they are. We would like to hear the voice of traditional leaders and kings of Africa as to what do they say, what does our religion and philosophies say is the responsibility of a king in a situation like this? How do we hold a king accountable for such genocide? It is these questions to us that are really troubling in terms of where is the place of a king, whether is in rebuilding the Swazi society and the Swazi state. Where do you place the king, and what do you do with the crimes that have been committed? And we also want to hear why is it inappropriate for our majesties to condemn their own when he is doing something that's unacceptable? We are indeed a peaceful nation, but we are not stupid people who have to accept even things that are glaringly wrong. Sopuza, the father of the current king, used to warn the Swazis that there's a difference between being peaceful and being stupid. These were his words, not mine. We want to respect the Swazi royal family, but we do not believe it is respecting itself. I will want to pause because this is a dialogue. I don't want it to be a monologue, but we are at pains with the atrocities that have been committed. The demands that civil society and ordinary people are making are ones that we hope the kings and queens of Africa will stand up to support. We also hope and pray that you will be true to the values of what kings are. In Swaziland, we used to believe that a king is the sun that will shine even at a murderer's house. It doesn't discriminate. The sun that we currently have only shines for its own family. Thank you.
Thank you, Babu Hlatshwayo, for that background and for opening up our eyes to some of the things as people who are not on the ground that we might be missed or might have taken for granted. And as you pose the question to the room and you say, what is the philosophy of what a king is? looking at what has happened in Eswatini, what should it be now? And that is a deep question that I think is left lingering for all of us to ponder through. And the grace of being in this room is that we do have people that could give us insight and would guide us in what to do in times like this. I just want to pass on a comment to people that we have reached full capacity on the Zoom platform. I have checked on the YouTube platform as well. There are people who have logged in, and we thank you. Our technical team is monitoring both platforms. And so you can be able to drop a comment or a question. What we will do with comments and questions, we will not take them per speaker. We will allow a panel to finish. And once we have gone through those, then it will make it easier to be able to group the questions and then ask either per speaker or the relevant panelist to then provide us with input. So one of my recommendations, I have already seen people who have placed comments on the group. We ask that you just indulge us in that process that we are applying, and to make sure that we have a fair view of the comments that are put in and the questions, and we also redirect them as they'll be best applied. Madam Jeanette, I've just been informed by the technical team is struggling to connect, is having technology challenges. So as and when she logs in, we will allow her the slot to then bring us a contribution. And she is from the Southern African People's Solidarity Network. We will move on to the next speaker, Mr. Wandile Zulu, who's from Pudemo in Eswatini. He is the Secretary General of the organization. He's the National Coordinator of the Swaziland United Democratic Front, which is an umbrella body for of pro-democracy forces. He is the former president of Swayoko, the Youth League of Pudemo. He has worked closely with the late President Mario Masuku for many years, and he is also the former national organizer of Swaziland National Union of Students. Babu Jojo, we are happy that you are now missed, and you're about to share a part of what you have experienced and give us light into what we might be missing. Over to you, sir.
Thank you very much, Madam Program Director. May I pass my warm greetings on behalf of Pudemo and the Swazi people to their majesties, to the religious leadership of the church, the leadership of civil society, as well as all esteemed guests who are part of this discussion. Thank you very much for giving us this opportunity to ventilate our views and also pass our cries as Africans to our own African sisters and brothers. Comrade Mandla Hlachwago and all other presenters before me have done a wonderful job in giving us an expose of both who we are as Africans and as Swazis, as well as what we ought to do. Program Director, I will start by making a very brief picture of the last 2 months. Then I will go into our plea to African traditional leaders, the church, as well as civil society in the region, as well as, of course, how do we look at the way forward. The struggle we are speaking about is not 2 months old. It's way over 4 decades of a struggle for self-determination, self-rule, which is the same struggle that our forefathers waged against colonialists of British origin as well as Boer origin in the early 1800s, coming up to 1968, where Swaziland officially got her independence. But the speakers before me have done justice on that. I will simply say the last 2 months show a culmination of a frustration of youth and the general poor, oppressed Swazi, as well as a struggle for democracy, where through that structure, Swazis would afford an opportunity to elect their own government, which will also speak to the cabinet. A right that they have been deprived since the 12th April 1973, which today accounts for almost 48 years, where the monarchy illegally and irrationally usurped power, which immediately changed the institution of the monarchy itself. We have seen a struggle again, which is an expression of a frustration around poverty, which did display itself in a form of looting, which we do not necessarily encourage, but the reality is the reality, especially with the advent of COVID-19 at the beginning of last year. And Swazi is living in a situation where government doesn't provide for even the barest of support in terms of food, as well as basic needs that they have not then been able to source for themselves, courtesy of the huge loss of jobs because of COVID, as well as just an exacerbation of very hard conditions, has culminated and poured out of line the kind of anger we have seen in the last 2 months. This, of course, was sparked by a simple call for justice after the mysterious death of a student by the name of Thabani Nkomonye, literally 2 months on the 17th of May, if my memory serves me well, where police mysteriously handled the case of this young man, and it raised suspicion to the entire nation that police could actually be responsible. And while that was happening, 3 MPs were quite vocal in Parliament in raising people's issues, as well as this issue in particular. Then constituencies went on a campaign that we love what we see and hear from MP Makaukau, who comes from the Eastern region in a constituent called Sipofaneni. We like the noise we hear from MP Basset Mabuza, who comes from a constituency in the South. We like what we hear from MP Mthandeni Dube, who comes from a constituency in the East. But why is my MP quiet? Then youth and communities listed up their demands and took them to their constituency to raise first, why are you quiet on justice for Thabani in Parliament? Why are you quiet on the calls for democratic reforms in Parliament? Why are you quiet on unemployment? Why are you quiet on poverty, gender-based violence, and other social ills? This saw a series of petitions almost every day, And most importantly, during weekends, I remember for the last 3 weeks, 3 Saturdays, there would be petitions of about 15 to 20 local constituencies being petitioned on the same day. Swaziland has plus minus 60, 59 to 60 constituencies. So people were petitioning their MPs. And as usual, His Majesty through his government was not too happy, neither too pleased with Swazis expressing their anger, Swazis expressing their demands bordering on socio-economic and democracy, lack or absence of democracy. The Prime Minister, Mr. Themba Masuku, came out to officially ban, that is almost 2 weeks ago, ban the protests. This then changed the whole program, where police and warders came into the different communities to literally and violently stop people from converging with the mission of going into their constituencies to petition. Then a hullabaloo started from there. It quickly turned out very violent, and quite disturbingly, the king unleashed violence never seen. We have known the king to be violent, to arrest people who disagree with his political system, particularly activist Comrade Mario Masugu has been well known for being in and out of jail, charged with serious crimes bordering on sedition, treason, and terrorism, merely because he is an advocate for change. And there are many other human rights defenders, lawyers, and journalists who have suffered the same in the last 4 decades. But this time, what was quite shocking is the joint operation of the military and the police, as well as the involvement of a French-speaking nation from up in Africa, who sent literally their army to support His Majesty. And in the process unleashed a very, very violent wave where people have been killed, which as we speak, we have unconfirmed report of plus minus 75 people who have died in the last 2 weeks. We have 250 people who are in different hospitals with injuries of gun wounds, broken limbs, as well as obviously trauma. We have plus minus 600 people who are in jails, arrested, and some of them not even being charged, simply being kept in the different police camps as well as military barracks. Program Director, without taking much of your time, permit me to deal with what we think we want as Swazis. I have already hinted that in the main, it's a call for democracy, it's a call for the respect of human rights, it's a call for the rule of law, it's a call for self-determination, a Swazi nation that would be allowed to have the power that was stolen 48 years ago back to the people, which could be contested through in a democratic parliament. A king that is totally, or a monarchy, that is totally not part of the day-to-day running of the country. But with what has happened lately, I'm not too sure the Swazis would still be, I'm not too sure the Swazi people will be no longer will be keen to have a king who has murdered our people in the way it has happened. We have grown even more not to trust him, neither have any iota of faith in him and his family being part of the politics, because each time you don't share the same views as his, you are fit to be killed, jailed, and pushed out of your country. We have more than 600 Swazis who live in exile here in South Africa and many parts of the world. We have many Swazis who are languishing in jail, one of them being facing a jail term of 85 years, Amos Mbetsi, as well as many other political activists. The Swazi in particular, Chair, want a king with integrity, as African traditions and customs will dictate. The Swazis look up for a leader who has empathy, as our traditions will dictate. A leader who has humility, a leader who can be held accountable, a leader who has self-awareness, a leader who has emotional diligence, a leader who can listen to his people, even when they say something that he may not like, but he's still required to listen. You need a leader who has a unifier, an embodiment of our people, as we would have believed in the past. A leader who gives our people protection as well as equal opportunities, particularly economic opportunities. In a country that has 47% youth unemployment, in a country where HIV still stands at 26% and is leading globally, in a country where 63% of Swazis live on less than $1 per day. Swazis are merely asking for that. And in response, this is what we have experienced. Our call and our humble plea to their majesties, religious leaders, civil society and business in Africa is simple. We need an immediate call from all of us as Africans that His Majesty King Mswati must stop the violence he has unleashed, the war he has unleashed on unarmed civilians. The army must withdraw immediately from the streets. The army must stop being in private uniform, because we do not know, it's no longer easy to make a difference between a criminal and a soldier and a police. But also, it would be prudent and African for us to call the king to order, especially their majesties. Call to order one of our own. This trend that it's only the Western world that can say something on human rights doesn't help us. It paints a picture of us not necessarily taking serious our rights and defending our own. So it will be our humble plea that a call of order from their majesties on His Majesty, as well as an assistance of an independent commission to investigate the extent of deaths, arrests, injuries, as well as those who are missing, because this has really culminated to a humanitarian crisis. As well as lastly, Chairperson, an all-Africa mission to assist Swazis establish a dialogue, as well as whether a dialogue or a negotiation. But of course, a negotiation can't happen without justice first. We are looking at prospects of taking His Majesty to some body where he can be held accountable, personally accountable for this carnage he has unleashed on our innocent, unarmed Swazi people who were merely calling for a democracy, rule of law, and a respect for human rights. With that said, I invite all of you to a 3 o'clock Pudemo commemoration. Pudemo today turns 38 years of an unbroken struggle against His Majesty's political system called Tingundla, which is nothing but royal dominance and supremacy of the royal house on the Swazi nation and the Swazi people for the last 4 decades. That is where you will get even more in-depth picture of this struggle, and as well as how we look at a way forward. With that, thank you very much once again for your time and patience, Program Director, and all their majesties and leaders in this forum.
Thank you, Mr. Lulu. Thank you for the pleas. I am tempted not to even repeat them because I think you explained them quite eloquently. As you were mentioning the calls that you were doing here, calling for the respect of human rights and calling for an all-Africa mission to Eswatini to start a negotiation or engagement that will allow us to see a new, in South Africa, it's called a new dawn, and to see a new way of life or a way forward. We thank you for that. We see the comments that are coming in. We appreciate them. I will not be going through them and reading them, but I can assure you, Lauren Matthew, Dr. Janet, Boy, Daniel Monwabu, His Royal Highness, Nana Nyayo, we have Sizagele, all the people that are giving the comments gift. We thank you for the comments, keep them coming. We also do take comments on YouTube, so we are monitoring both platforms, comments and questions. As I explained earlier on, we will not be responding to them immediately, but we will have a Q&A session when all the panelists have shared their opinion or what they've prepared for us today. To finish up on the first session, we have Mr. Martin Wayman, who is part of the Aido Network International, heading up the Human Rights Committee, which is the Ubuntu Committee. And he'll be exploring the concept of Ubuntu in the dispensation of African people's rights and responsibilities. Mr. Martin, I'm assuming you are online. I did see you come in.
Yep.
We'll hand over the platform to you.
Yes, hello. Thank you very much, Madam Moderator. Your Highnesses, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, all protocols observed. I want to thank you all for being here and for this opportunity to present at this meeting and to outline the position and direction that Aido wishes to encourage in finding solutions to the current problems in the Kingdom of Eswatini. Let me say that there are several foundational concepts that we feel are vital to recognize and take on board in order that we may help to bring about a change in conditions for the better. And I have to say many of these have already been expressed, but let me put the Aido perspective here. The first of these is what we in Aido link together, Ubuntu human rights. Ubuntu is an African concept going together with the Universal Declaration of Human Rights and also expressed in the Charter of Human Rights, of Human and People's Rights of the African Union. And Aido is developing training along these lines for anybody that is interested to know more. The second is a broad respect for traditions and cultural values. The third, which is closely tied into the second point, is a support for the traditional kingdoms and royalty throughout Africa. Now, some may say that these are in conflict, and they certainly can be, but I would also say that they certainly do not have to be. So I want to go into this some more in order to help lay a foundation for working together in the future. There is no doubt that some traditional practices are in conflict with human rights. This has to be said. And it would apply for any culture of the world. But it does not mean that by broad generalization, all aspects of tradition, of that tradition and culture are bad. And so what we are discussing here, though, is an example of how things have gone so in Eswatini. When a ruler has absolute power over others, there is clearly room for abuse. An absolute dictator can be benevolent, can be a benevolent dictator and may well act for the good of all citizens of his country. But unfortunately, any such system leaves the door open for abuse and corruption. And of course, it removes, and this is a key point, it removes the power of choice from each individual to have a say in how the country or a group or a business is run. You could say that businesses are often run as a kind of dictatorship, because that may be the most efficient, excuse me, the most efficient way. However, with countries, this is certainly not a democratic way forward, as it strips from the people of the country from having a representative say. So I do not think that that is an option here, as we will obviously want to improve conditions, not perpetuate them. Traditional rulers do have an important role. In fact, we in Aido believe that they have a very important role in the development of Africa. The kings and queens of Africa also represent the culture, the color, the traditional food, the dress, and so many other beautiful aspects of society and many other practices across the continent. So whilst the kings and queens of Africa have a traditional role in maintaining a culture and a people, their people, they also have to take responsibility for looking at traditional or existing practices that are in violation of Ubuntu human rights. They are in violation, where they are in violation of Ubuntu rather than when they are being fixed on maintaining harmful or destructive tradition. So it is their role to recognize this and evaluate these as being harmful. And so instead of perpetuating them, it is time to replace them and take on board practices that demonstrate and imbue Ubuntu, human rights, humanity into their cultures. We can see in the country that is under discussion here that there are many changes to be made. And if we move forward with both these principles hand in hand, respect for the traditions alongside awareness of those practices that are outmoded and need to be replaced with ones that represent respect for one's fellow men and women in a framework of human rights, then we will come to a solution to the problems we are faced with. Aido is non-political. We are not here to say what kind of government a country should have. We believe that it is up to the citizens of the country to determine that. This can only be properly done through other human rights, through the application of human rights standards, such as freedom of speech and freedom of association, amongst other rights. And so by informing the people on the different options of government and letting them decide. But again, it is in a framework of human rights and respect for one another that this direction should be taken. And this means that people should be given a free choice in determining that for themselves. So I call here for all the traditional, all the kings and queens and the rulers of Africa to take these words on board, to look towards advancing their own cultures, their own people, by removing anything that is against these basic Ubuntu human rights principles. And so developing their own cultures in a way that is beneficial and equal for all. And so it is in this spirit that on behalf of Aido, we welcome you all here, and we will do what we can to facilitate a peaceful and positive solution to the existing conflict and problems. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Martin. We are grateful for your sharing and giving us a position that Aido is a non-political organization, and in the spirit of Ubuntu will always be leaning on the side of human rights and making sure all lives are spared and finding the best solution to make sure we coexist. We have come to the end of our first session, covered by civil society and religious organization. We are seeing the comments. We will be posting a contact email address that people can share, and if they want to connect with us, and for future events that will be happening of this nature, and then we can be able to send them invitations. And also towards the end of the program, we will talk to the summary points of this event, the plans, and what would then be the next steps from here. With that, we might have people that want to be part of the next steps and the next engagements. So I have seen some people who have left their contact details. Please do so in the group chat. We will collect that. And we will also be sharing Aido Network and Action for Conflict Transformations contact details so that we can stay connected to each other and together we can find a solution. We are grateful to all the speakers we have shared and a light of what is happening. And in the true sense of this engagement, we want to generate light and not heat. And therefore, we will always be promoting for a healthy engagement. We are sympathetic and empathetic to the cause and the lives that have been lost. And ours is to find or assist in being part of the solution and being able to dialogue and engage as many people as possible, so that it's not a solution that comes from one person, but it is a group solution. Thank you, Mr. Martin. We are going to move on to the next speakers, but I would like to call on to my chairperson, His Royal Highness Paul Eganda, to have a word as we will be switching gears and we'll be bringing into the platform the next panel, which is the kings that have been planned for speaking. Today we do have His Imperial Majesty King Bongane III, we have His Majesty King Mzilikazi II, His Royal Majesty King Dr. Robinson Tanye, and His Royal Highness Godwin Bebe of Papi. We have Honorable Bernard Miko, His Royal Highness Papa Sande Elmot, and His Royal Highness Enoch Pape, and Ambassador Chief Michael Okwalinga. So we do have an interesting panel next that will be introduced by His Royal Highness Paul Eganda. Over to you, Your Majesty.
Bayete, my kings. Thank you very much, Sipokazi. Given the background from the civil societies, what you have told us today is really very painful and extremely very touching. As Aido, we are here to support you. We are not a problem. We want to be part of the solution. We always believe that African solutions for African problems first. Our intervention, as you can see, is to go first through the traditional rulers and the civil societies. I welcome all those who joined us late. And the next session, we are going to give opportunity to our traditional rulers all over Africa, selected for their experience, their good record of work. Amongst them, we've got lawyers, we've got senators, kings, queens, and also some ex-state presidents from different countries. So first of all, I would like to give you the purpose of this dialogue. The question that we would like our kings, rulers to address is, what is the role of monarchies in the era where there is an increasing calls for democracy and governance by the people? We as traditional rulers, definitely this is a job for us. Are the events in Eswatini reflective of the pitfalls of absolute monarchies, or they are just an indication that King Mswati repression is an individual monarchy? So we need to call a spade here if we must get to the bottom of the issue. And we want to do this respectively, but to the point. Are there possibilities of coexistence between the democratic institutions and the monarchies? Aido advocates for the coexistence and the restoration of all the kingdoms in Africa. We support the king, we work with the kings, we are all traditional rulers in ways. We believe that you are the our beacon of hope, custodians of our culture. We expect better from you. So the following would be the framework within which I would like us to conduct this dialogue. First, our riding goal is to achieve a climate of peace and respect for the human rights in Eswatini. We need to call for immediate stop for violence. We need to explore the role of the traditional rulers, kings and queens, and what kind of intervention we need to take. Obviously, with this kind of gathering, we shall need a mandate from both the civil societies and the traditional rulers here. So I believe most of the kings who are here, I know some of you are related to King Mswati by blood, and it will be, we believe it's a better entry for us to get into a negotiation table. I am updated that a certain delegation from African Union visited the kingdom a few days ago. They have not given their report, but our approach is non-political. Our approach is the traditional leaders going to visit their own brother in a humble, peaceful way, negotiate, and find a solution. With these few words, ladies and gentlemen, I would like the next panel to be opened by one of the most respected sons and fathers of Africa, His Imperial Majesty, King Bongani III. Bayete, Bayete, Bayete King Bongani. Back to the moderator. Thank you.
Thank you, we are grateful for we are about to hand over to panel so that they can share with us. At the moment, His Royal Highness. His Royal Majesty of the Embo Kingdom of Africa. Embo simply means His Royal Highness is a former political prisoner with the late Dr. Nelson Mandela. He is the member of the June 16 Foundation. He is the chairperson of the Embo Economic Bloc. He is a member of Contralesa, and that is the Congress of Traditional Leadership in South Africa. He is the former head of the political school of the ANC in Johannesburg. And he is also the former soldier of Umkhonto we Sizwe military wing of the ANC. The list is much longer, but I will spare you. He is a father and a son of the soul for Africa. Your Highness, we are grateful that you've joined us, and we'll hand over to you, Baba.
Bayete, thank you very much for the opportunity.
Bayete.
I would like to greet His Majesties of the continent. I would also like to greet the leadership of Aido. I would also like to greet the leadership of the people of Eswatini. Protocol observed. We are today going to be discussing a topic that is very sensitive to people who do not understand what it is meant by kingdom or kingdoms. Today we find ourselves in a situation where people portray themselves or posturing themselves as kings without understanding the origin of what it is meant by being a king, or what is expected out of you as a king, and what is a kingdom. Today we find kingdoms in the continent that we think are kingdoms, but when you look at the foundation of it, it is kingdoms that are aligned or created by the very same people that we fought against in the struggle of colonialism. And by differentiating from genuine kingdoms, you would see them continuing wearing the same clothes, practicing the same traditions of the very same people who oppressed you. You would see them paying allegiance to their colonial masters. And you see their colonial masters recognizing them and making sure that they exist. Now, mine is to differentiate between the original kingdoms that are not colonial attached and the original kingdoms that are of the source of origin of the continent. When we speak as Embo, when we speak of kingdoms, we speak of spiritual kingdoms. These are kingdoms that are spiritually in line with God. And when you understand spirituality, you then understand that you do not dwell into sin. Sin is very broadly. What you see today, kings abusing their power, to me, it is aligned with sins. Because as a king, you are a father of the people, that particular nation. You become the custodian of the culture and the traditions and the customs that are aligned with God. As kings, we are just ambassadors of God on earth. God created this earth. He put us here on earth to be the eye and the mouth of God. He did not put us here on earth to be abusive to our people. He did not put us here on earth to become tyranny, to become dictators. When people come to you as the king, they come for healing. When they see you, they see somebody who is aligned with God, not somebody who is a murderer. I am raising this because we need to differentiate between people who are aligned with God as kings on earth, because these kingdoms are kingdoms that have been set here on earth by God. Now, when you as an individual, you are not chosen by God, chosen by abusive humans and placed there, obviously the repercussions will be what we see in Swaziland. Now, we need to teach other kings and share with other kingdoms that your role as a king, it is about healing that nation, about reminding your people about spirituality, because spirituality is the key. If you have dwelled into spirituality as a nation, you form a formidable nation that is divine, that do not dwell to sin. And you as the father of that nation, humility prevails into you. Children, they come to you, problems, you are able to relate with them. There's no barrier between you and your people. You are the spiritual healers. You are the spiritual motivators to your people. Your role is very simple: to constantly remind the people about connecting with God, but not being a dictator. There is a difference of a tyranny, a dictator, with a king that is placed here on earth by God. We need as kings to condemn what is happening in the kingdom of Eswatini by killing innocent people. It is wrong. It is totally wrong to take somebody's life, because as kings, we are supposed to be people who are not supposed to dwell into sin. Somebody's life is precious. Somebody's life, it is precious because you do not have to be abusing the people, but the people need to be working towards, people need to be together in support and working towards a better life for all. The minerals that you find in your kingdom, they don't belong to you as the king. These are minerals that are owned by God, but are being brought to you so that you, together with the people, you're able to live a better life. Not one people absolute, it is wrong. I still want to repeat that. It is wrong for you to think that whatever it is on, beyond or beneath the earth, it belongs to you and your family. It is wrong. It belongs to the people. You are the people, you are the person that must guide the people how to utilize these mineral resources. You need to work with your royal council so that you become the guide to the people, not you abusing mineral resources for yourself and buying beautiful cars and living a luxury life whilst people are starving. It is wrong. It is ungodly. That is the sin that a king is not supposed to be carrying. Because when your neighbor, when your people are suffering, God is going to punish you. God is going to punish you together with your generations to come, together with your family, because that is the sin that we do not see as ourselves as kings to be carrying. When other people from outside who want to work with you, you need to make sure that the mineral resources, they pay for the education of your people. You need to make sure that the minerals in your surrounding, your people, they become shareholders of those minerals. When the children are born in your kingdom, you give them what we call dividend shareholders certificate as people who are beneficiaries of those minerals. If we can all learn that, peace shall prevail on our kingdoms and on earth. Today, we've got all these minerals, resources that our people are suffering. Today, we've got kings who travel to European countries for medical attention. It is wrong, because those minerals that you find in your vicinity, in your environment, must be the ones that develop hospitals, build schools, build infrastructure, so that your people are able to associate with the beneficiation of those minerals in that country. The question that we ask ourselves today is, kingdoms can coexist with the democratic dispensation? Yes, it can. Because the king is supposed to be meddling on the affairs of politics. If we can borrow from other countries where political parties be going before they go door to doors and engaging the communities, they must seek first the blessing of His Majesty. All of them. The king is above all political parties' differences. He is not supposed to create his own political party. He is supposed to embrace all the children of the kingdom. If they create political parties, they must come and explain to the king and say, this is what we are intending to do. The king must bless them. And during the election, the political parties must come with their manifestos to the people, where the king must give freedom of movement, freedom of expression, freedom of association. Whichever party that has won the election democratically, the king must bless that leader to come there, because remember, political parties are supposed to be administrators of the land. So if we then become kings and become administrators, what is going to happen? Chaos is going to happen. That's why it is very important, because these children, when they are guided by the principles of spirituality, they would understand that their role as political parties is to develop and to make a better life for all. Yes, even if other children, they belong to other political parties, but the one that has emerged and taken over, that political party must make sure that they serve everybody, regardless of their political affiliation. Yes, political parties or democracy with kingdoms, they can coexist. What is critical, it is about respecting each other. It is about understanding and respecting each other's domain. Not as kings to become dictators. It is wrong. If we can borrow from other democracies, I'm telling you, our continent will become the better continent. And if we understand in terms of percentages of the minerals, if they are owned by the people, then the government becomes the administrators. Let me tell you, all of us would become better for all. I would like to chart a way forward. As King Bongane of Embo Kingdom, I would like to humble myself to the people of Swaziland and to the leadership of Swaziland to say whatever that has happened that is wrong, as Embo, we totally distance ourselves from any wrongdoing under the name or under the name used as kingdoms. We are not like that. We, as the leader of Embo Kingdom, I think I am politically mature to understand that what is right and what is wrong. I want to go further to say we are sorry for what has happened, and we value human life and we value human rights. It is very important in this time of age, in this global age, that we must work with the world. And the world must not feel threatened when they see a king. They must feel when they see a king that it is somebody who is placed on earth by God. It is somebody that must bring life onto him, not somebody that they will see as a murderer. We totally distance ourselves from that. As a kingdom of Embo, we would like to suggest that as kings or kingdoms, we should issue a joint statement in calling calm in Swaziland, and also to encourage the kingdom of Swaziland not to kill our people. It is wrong to murder. It is wrong to take somebody's life. And I would also like, number two, to call for unity in all political parties together with the kingdom and all the civil rights movement. Number three, would like to jointly unite as kingdoms of the continent and of the world to assist and work in showing the right way of ruling in Swaziland. It is upon us as kings and as kingdoms of the world, because I think the king of Swaziland, he needs to be guided by us. He is very young, but we need to guide him and show him the right, righteous way so that his people are able to respect him. His people, they're able to relate with him. His people are able to go to the palace and seek a guidance in terms of spirituality. We need to share those things. Number four, to work towards separating traditional leaders to political party involvement. I think it's very key that. Why it is key? Because that's where the problem is. If you are listening to my grandfather speaking Hlachwayo, my grandmother is Hlachwayo, you know, when somebody speaks like Hlachwayo, I give respect because my grandmother is a Hlachwayo also. So I see him as my grandfather. He gave a very important history or historical background. It's very important. So I think we need not to be involved in political affairs, but as fathers, as people who must guide, if there's something wrong, we must be the last door for people to come and seek for guidance. We must last door when people are fighting these political parties, we are able to guide them. We must be the last door where people, when they seek spiritual things, they must come us as kings. Number 5, as I said, we as king and kingdoms, we need to jointly condemn the killing of innocent people and total condemn the suppression and of the draconic laws towards our people in Swaziland. It is ungodly as a king to take somebody's life. We totally condemn the posturing of people who says they are kings, but this side, they don't understand the role of kingship or kingdoms towards our people. If we understand spirituality, closing, spirituality makes connect with the divine spirit. When you have connected with the divine spirit, you developed a culture that is divine. You develop a tradition that is divine. You develop a custom that is divine. If you are able to put those things together, you create a divine nation. You as the leader, you would have a guilty conscience to suppress your people. Guilt conscience would guide you not to do wrong things towards your people. In all, I am humbling myself to the people to say, let us go back to the origins of God. Let's go back to spirituality. Then all these wrong things that are happening in the world would never happen. I thank you. Bayete.
Bayete. We thank you, Your Highness. We thank you for sharing with us. And I will not do a misjudgment of trying to summarize what you've just shared. I will just allow the next king that will be sharing with us, King Mzilikazi, to come through as a speaker. What we will do with this panel as it goes through and shares their wisdom and give us guidance on the view and the actions that would make a difference to the child of the soil in Eswatini. We will do a summary towards the end. King Mzilikazi is a king from Amandebele, currently based in Zimbabwe, present day Zimbabwe. And we will ask him to come through and take over the podium, the platform, and share with us his wisdom and points that he has prepared. Over to you, Your Highness.
Please unmute.
Hello. Can you hear me?
Yes.
I can hear you, Your Highness.
Yes.
Yes. Thank you very much, our coordinator. And I would like to recognize the royals that are in the house, as well as all the dignitaries and the people that are here. Maybe I will not differ so much from what King Bungani has said in some points. I'm very touched with the situation in Eswatini. I do not know much about the politics there, but what we have been seeing in the news and what has been coming through, quite disturbing. I wouldn't want really to go so much into their politics, but I believe there is need for a solution, and very urgently. Maybe what also I want to correct is, I'm not the king of the Ndebele just like that. We are called the royal kingdom of Mtwagazi. Yes, it is mainly Ndebele, but we are the kingdom of Mtwagazi, and we are here in what is called Zimbabwe. First and foremost, we need to understand that a king, like my royal brother has just said, is a person sent from God. He is God chosen, and he comes down to the people, his own people, flesh and blood, to become their leader, a servant leader, not their boss, but a servant leader. He is a servant because he is there to serve. He is a leader because he is also there to lead and guide and direct as he gets messages from the Almighty God. He is also a father of his own nation. All children are his. He is their father, and they need to trust him. He takes care of the weak in as much as of the strong. That is what a king is there for. In a situation where there is, or in a country or a place where there is a king, you do not expect chaos, and you do not expect people to be fighting and killing one another. Where a king is ruling, because he is their father. God chose him so that God himself can provide for his people through that person called the king. I am trying to define here what a king stands for. He is there for that very purpose, to express the love of God to the people of his kingdom, to express the patience of God, to express the peace of God, to express the comfort as well as the wisdom of God to his people. That is what a king is, and that is what a king stands for. He is also there to provide for his people. Now, when we are talking about the relevance of kings in Africa vis-a-vis what is called democracy, it is also very, very important to define in proper terms what democracy really is. However, people are given the right to choose the kind or the systems they want to follow under, the way they need to be governed, the way they want to carry themselves. This is very, very important. I wouldn't want to talk too much as to whether democracy and kingship and kingdoms can work together. There are so many systems and so many ways of handling rulership, and where people are not defined to kingdom life alone or defined to democracy alone or whatever else. People can always work around a system that works well for them. And that they should be given the leeway to choose. It is very, very important for them to do so. So in my case, I would feel that maybe what we need with the people of Swaziland now, I was listening to my brothers, the two brothers, Tlatshayo and Dludlu, as they were expressing the challenges that they're going through. I liked the way they continue to show respect to leadership, despite the challenges that they are facing in their territory there. In my view, it is very, very important not to throw away the child together with the bathwater, to lose the dignity and the identity of the kingdom as the kingdom of Eswatini. To me, it is very, very important that you don't lose those values, you don't lose those kind of respects, you don't lose all those things despite the problems that are facing you. We need to find solutions moving forward as to what can work for you. I have seen democracies myself, 4 decades of democracies, of a democracy that has killed so many people, committed genocides, and I being a victim of that. I have seen that. They are not necessarily holy, but the person who becomes a leader must take responsibility. People should not move into leadership in, like my royal brother was saying here, King Bungan III, because you put people's lives into jeopardy by moving into an area that will challenge you. Kingdom, kingship, ruling, and all these kind of things are very, very simple. They are just as simple as ABC, except when you begin to complicate them with greed, begin to complicate them with power, hunger, and all those kind of things. And I would maybe moving towards close because a lot of things have been said. I am willing, and I put myself across, willing to help meet with the king of Eswatini and the people, the stakeholders, to see if ever they could be out of this situation. It is not easy for me to say all the things that I may need to say here on this platform, because I am a problem solver. I would like to meet with the people concerned if they need my input, because these things are simple. You cannot begin to kill one another for whatever reasons. It's not necessary. So I am willing to put myself across for that purpose. And finally, Africans are not new people. They have not just been discovered. They are old, very, very old, and they have had problems before. Along the way, that is not rocket science. and they have solved their problems. The narrative that has been put across in our history is not a true, it's not the truth. We have solved our problems, not necessarily using spears on one another. We know how to solve our problems. We must be in charge of our traditions and cultures, in charge of who we are and how we move forward. It should not be defined for us by the West or whoever else. Because once that begins to happen, we begin to have problems. Because things will be put across in a manner that will then complicate us and divide us, because now things are being put across differently. We know who we are, and we can solve these problems, including this one. I want to also say that wherever there is any killing, I want to strongly say that I, with the Kingdom of Mtwagazi, we do not subscribe to these things. People need to enjoy life. They are here on earth to live freely and enjoy life. No one should be killing anyone for any reason, because there is no reason for killing. I thank you.
Thank you, Your Highness, King of Mtwagazi. We apologies to the misreference, and thank you for that correction. And we value your input and you joining us today. I see people are putting in the comments. We are grateful for that and appreciating your wisdom. And so we are happy for the dialogue. As I started on in the beginning to say, this is a dialogue, and we are here to share with each other and find a common goal of making sure that there is respect for human rights. We are going to move on to His Royal Majesty, King Dr. Robinson Tanyi, as the next speaker. He is the Secretary General of RECTRAD, which is the network of traditional leaders for sustainable management of ecosystem in Central Africa. RECTRAD looks at advocating for inclusive reforms in the land, forestry, mining sectors, and look both at national development and local aspirations. And I'm only saying, but a limited scope of what he has done and what he can share with us, but just a snippet so that we have context of the presence and the greatness that we have in our midst. Over to you, Your Royal Majesty. Dr. Robinson. I'm sure he was in on the group. I'm sure he just, he'll be back on again while the team is
on. It's on.
Is he on? Your Royal Majesty King Dr. Robinson Tanyi.
Hello.
Welcome, sir. Welcome, Your Highness. If the team can just switch the screen.
Are you getting me?
Yeah, we can hear you loud and clear, Your Royal Majesty.
Well, good afternoon to everyone. I can see close to 100 participants here. I want to congratulate the organizers of this rich meeting, to say hello to my friend King Bugane and other traditional leaders and moral authorities who are in this meeting. I have followed it, though in patches, because I've been very busy. We're having a ceremony here that I am a very lively and big part of it. So I just could get a little bit of what was going on, but I know the essence of the meeting. I want to thank Aido and its a vibrant Highness Paul Eganda. I want to thank the moderator for this privilege. Yes, we are having trouble in Eswatini. Some would like to call it Swaziland. And it is time to speak. But what are we going to say? We are in an era where we want to promote traditional leadership as kings. And we are also in an era where we have to support democracy, freedom of speech, and the entire well-being of our people. I would want to share very much what King Bugane said. That's why I'll limit my intervention. He said, give the definitions of kings, kingship, kingdoms, and our roles as mediators, as ambassadors, God sent to take care. That's why I would say caretakers of God's resources here on earth. It would be wrong, and I would say it loudly and clearly, for anyone to think that the custodians that we are owners. No. Even if we want to go by definition of that English word, a custodian is not an owner. We are just trying to keep the society together, allowing the resources like rain to touch everyone. Appropriation of it to the king is a wrong step. It's the beginning of crisis, because none has come to be subjugated to the other. We are all made equal human beings on earth. Yes, there are some people who must lead, because like two people riding on the horse, one person must sit behind. I think that the leaders that we are, we should not abuse of the functions and the roles that we're supposed to be playing within our communities. That of taking care of their well-being and making sure that the resources are equitably distributed. We would not also want to take the case of Eswatini as a case in point, because like a child, you give birth to a child, don't put a hat. So the king of Eswatini is just doing his own, doing things his own way. Hello?
Hello, please go on, Your Majesty. The co-host, could you please mute the microphones of whoever is not speaking? Moderator, are you on?
Yes, I'm on. We were just making sure that the extra people that they have logged in, their mics have been muted.
Yeah, we've lost His Majesty.
Okay.
As we wait for him to get back, could we
Maybe
proceed?
we can move on to
Yes.
the next speaker, and as
Yeah.
he comes on, then we will
Yeah, shall bring
bring
him
him back
back.
on, or bring him in as we do the questions and answers. Next on the speaker is Honorable Bernard Miko, who is an astute politician. He is a veteran public servant. He's a deep thinker and a pious advocate for justice. Honorable Miko, if we can ask you to take on the platform.
Please unmute.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairperson and participants. I was very delighted when I was invited to speak on these issues because these are general issues of politics and society. When I listened to people who spoke, the other participants, I was very happy, particularly Mr. Martin Wakeman. And I don't believe that this platform is an opposition platform either against the opposition in Swaziland or the government. We are a neutral party sharing our experiences across board. From my perspective in Nigeria and as a political scientist, which I studied, I think it would be a big mistake for people all around Africa to think that democracy is a destination. For me, it's a dream. No system of government, either monarchy, democracy, will deliver the dividends than the human character. In all systems, there have been faults, and there have been challenges, and there have also been successes. So when we begin to equate democracy with development, fairness, equity, and justice, you should turn your mind back to countries, even in Europe, that are democratic today, whether there are no issues, or countries where you have parliamentary system, where there are no issues. I have also studied some countries with absolute monarchy, like in Bhutan. You know, you have successes where people are taken along. I think the most difficult situation in Africa is that of greed more than anything else. And the problem is not the inability to feed the teeming poor people in Africa, but the problem is the inability of the system to satisfy the greedy elites, which are in the minority. So how do we plug the loopholes in all these systems we are talking about? Swaziland, there has been a long history of gradual implementation of successes. Struggle. There should be constitutional ways of integrating monarchy into leadership and political systems in the country, because culture itself is very, very dynamic. We have been labeled as a black continent from 1885 in the Berlin Conference. But again, I ask myself, a dark continent as Africa was being scrambled by the European powers. What are they looking for? Somewhere that is dark. So it is left for us today as Africans inward and see how we can salvage our situations without being prompted by people outside. The struggle for justice, fairness in Swaziland today is struggle for justice and fairness in all other African countries. And if we can look at our value system, which has been debased by colonialism, we can rebuild ourselves, trade among ourselves, and deliver the dividends of democracy. Because democracy itself has no meaning. Democracy is any system of government that creates acceptability, where people are accepted by leaders, transfer or transition of power non-violently. It is a cruising level. If you look at the Western concept of democracy, the cruising level concept of governance. Other forms of government can equally deliver. In fact, we have had that when it comes in terms of development in Germany, Hitler was one of the people that developed Germany, but he was a dictator. He owned nothing. So for me, we should bring our leaders, both the followers, to account, and we plug the loopholes in governance across board. Because the king or the monarch or the political leader, prime minister, the president is not acting alone. It's acting with people. And we stop. You look at yourself as a demigod working with people, and they isolate themselves from the society. I think there should be systems, continuous dialogue for us to get to where we want to go. And that will be the beginning of my contributions, and I allow others to speak. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Your Honorable Miko, for that contribution. And I'm sure as we get questions and answers, we will call you back into the platform. Next up is His Royal Highness, Papa Sande Emelot of Tege Iteso from Uganda.
Moderator, I think King Tanyi is back. Maybe you allow him first finish what he was trying to say. His Majesty King Tanyi is back online. Could we allow him finish what he was saying? Kindly, please.
King Tanyi, Dr. Robinson.
Yeah, most obliged, most obliged. Thanks for meeting me. There surely was some technical issues. Are you getting me now?
Yes, Your Honorable, we're able to get you.
Are you getting me?
Yes, Your Highness, we can get you.
Yes. Oh. Yeah, I was just I seen that there was some technical hitch that probably affected my delivery. As a matter of fact, it is just to add a word or some words to what many have already said, or that which we have already heard, that the king is a custodian. Yes, we are the direct persons or authorities that God handed his creation on earth. The king was, I mean, in the Bible, in whatever reflection, was the person who had the responsibility as custodian of God's creation on earth. And he, as the society grew and the responsibilities became multifold, I had to get some other people to act. This we call like the messengers, who today we call them politicians, and that today have arrogated on themselves to rule and push the kings behind. It's not for nothing that because of the strength of kingship, they were the first to be attacked by the colonizers, because when they came, the first persons to be put behind are the kings, to be able to share the power or take the power from them. That's how many kings became killed, exiled, or thrown out. And today we've seen a multitude of others who have come in, and they are claiming to be this because politicians have put them there. Kings are born. They are not just people who are appointed. And yes, there's democracy. It must be accepted by all. But I heard one speaker before saying that the kings are people who are by authority authoritative. It is that is the only way to bring people more together. But it also depends on what you use to as your dent of authority. Some people or all of us would disagree that you use your authority to be able to take life out of your own, the very flock you are supposed to shepherd. That is not acceptable. And if we look, I go by the records and what I've heard about King Mswati. He has transformed all of the resources of his country, of his people, to himself. That is not the responsibility of a king. We are not supposed to, we are just in charge, not taking these resources. And I think that is where the problem is, because today it's more of a poverty problem that has brought up this crisis in Swaziland or Eswatini, because there are many mouths to feed now and less resources. The person in charge seems to be pushing more the other people at the corner instead of taking care of them as well. But you cannot be the king and you are having 1/3 of the resources of the Commonwealth. No. For me, that is where the problems are. And it comes also from the person's heart and the way he approaches issues. Because even now, it will be difficult to be able to intervene to bring sense into it. If he still has that quality of someone who is high-handed, who wants to be always on the high horse, you cannot be able to negotiate with that kind of a person. And yes, I agree that some attempts be made, a committee be formed, because immediately there should be ceasefire. There should be absence of loss of life and the looting of resources, beginning from him, because he's the only target. He's the only one target now. The only way to go about this is for him to accept to take the not like the backseat role, but in governance proper, he should not be seen ahead. His prime minister is there. You can do that's the same thing like the Queen and the Prime Minister of Great Britain, who has but executive powers, but he has he's seen as a symbol of the community. That is where I think and would want us to find a pathway, because now we have a problem reconciling democracy, the white man way, and the authority of the king. It is not today that the kingship or governance started. Before the white or the colonialists came, of course, there was a governance structure in Africa that they met, and that have been fighting until today. They are fighting. So I am like Aido, that no, we should try to bring back the structure of the old, but change probably the people, or change the mentality, or change a little bit of the parts that make the engine of the vehicle. Not that we just put aside the chief, because it's a wrong example. I would not back any king who would be able to be that arrogant, who would be able to want to take all for himself, because These are the qualities of what is bringing the problems today. The society is getting more and more poorer, and you, instead of looking for a way of increasing the wealth of that society, making each individual feel comfortable, you arrogate everything to yourself. No, that is back. That is wrong. This is my own way of looking at it. And I think that let's not throw the baby with the bathtub. The baby, the bathtub being the kings, the kingdom, the origins that we know of governance. But when someone is not governing properly, we should be able to face him and tell him, make him change. Look at methods to have him change his style of rulership, or recognize that times have changed. This is what I guess, or I would say I'm sure, that our brother has not been able to live up to, living up to the needs of his people, reading the signs on the wall that they need more food, they need more attention. And what are they looking for? The crisis, the riot now is because they need more attention. They need to be, they want to share in the resources, God-given resources, which belongs to the entire community and not to one man. That one man's role is just to do leadership, just to control and be sure that the culture of the people, the tradition of the people are not messed up.
Thank you, Your Majesty, struggling again with the network there. But we have heard, as he was sharing with us. And we will, once he's back again with the
money, wealth, a rich man, and makes it, brings a crisis. We cannot be at the same time in power and fighting to share the power with those at the base who are supposed to work for us. Dear members, I will just follow up and from time to time be able to respond to, I am caught up in some other activities, and it is only when people bring up some their own questions that we'll be able to enlighten them. I hope I've been able to tell you how I feel a king should be and what I think should be done in this case of Eswatini. The African has always settled this matter under the baobab tree that covers all of us, that shades all of us, because we believe in dialogue, we believe in exchange. It is only by talk when you don't talk to someone that you get into a conflict. But when you open up, you are always exchanging with someone. I can bet you would have either little or no problem in situations like that where people are allowed to air themselves or vent out their own frustrations, which is legitimate and should be factored into the administration, into the governance system of the community. Thank you all, and we stay together.
Thank you, Your Highness. Thank you for sharing with us, and at least the network did and connectivity allowed you to be able to share and finish the wise words you were passing on to us. Moving on to the speaker, I am mindful of the time as we are left with 3 speakers and then summary report and closing out. So I humbly ask with everything in me that, and it almost gets to be unfair, but the timing now puts us in that place that the following speakers that come through are just mindful of where we are in the program and the people that have stayed on with us for so long. We do value though everything that we'll be hearing, Next on, we're going to be asking His Royal Highness Papa Sande Emelot as the next speaker. And with a lot of the comments that I'm seeing of people asking, what is the way forward from here? What time frameworks are we going to be using? We've had a good sense of the past and how we got here, but where to from here? And leave you to that as we ponder the next steps from here. Over to you, Your Royal Highness. Your Royal Highness Emelot.
Yeah. Are you hearing me?
I can hear you loud and clear, sir. You may proceed, Your Royal Highness.
Thank you very much, moderator. Get
We can't hear you.
He is unmuted and the video is also active.
It's the network.
Yes, I think there might be a connectivity issue.
Your Highness Papa Sande, we cannot hear you. We only see the frozen screen.
I think we might have lost him because he was now on the list of participants. If I may request that we will come back to him once he logs back in. What we will then do is to move to the next speaker, which is His Royal Highness Nana Obuaje Giaba III from Ghana. Is he on this? Your Royal Highness Nana Obuaje Giaba III from Ghana.
Nana Enoch Aboaje.
Aboaje.
Council Nana Aboaje from Ghana. I've seen him somewhere. Nana, are you with us?
Yes, I'm here. And
yes, Council.
Yes, and good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where your distinguished guests are. All protocols observed. Once again, let me congratulate the organizers of this meeting for bringing such erudite speakers together to be able to talk about such an important matter. Now, I believe that chieftaincy in itself is not autocratic as probably we have been made to believe because of the actions or inactions of certain people. In fact, if you study the institution of chieftaincy very carefully, chiefs or traditional rulers are trustees for the people. They are trustees of the resources of the communities for the people. And therefore, as trustees, we chiefs or traditional leaders are required to act in the best interests of the people, utilizing those resources in the best interests of the people. So you would notice that the chieftaincy institution has elements of democracy. I believe that when we talk about democracy, It's not just about political parties. It's not just about voting. But you are talking about elements of accountability. You are talking about checks on misrule. You are talking about arrangements for transition such that you can transition from one ruler to another peacefully. You are talking about chiefs sitting in council with their elders. All of these are elements of democracy. All of these are measures by which people can, or traditional rulers can engage with their people and make sure that they are doing what is in the interest or the best interest of the people over which they rule. And I believe that the people you rule over, in a certain sense, you're actually serving them, because then you are serving their interests. Your Royal Highnesses and distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, the important thing to note is that usually when there are upheavals, it means that people are not happy with their quality of life. It means that people are not happy with the level of accountability. It means that people are not happy with the disregard of human rights. And this is irrespective of the kind of political system or governance system that is in place, whether it's an absolute monarchy, whether it's a limited monarchy, or whether it's one of party political activity where there is no monarchy at all. But as chiefs, if we understand the role that we are to play, I believe that you will still have people observing or maybe embracing the monarchical system, so long as we are treating them well. I don't think people are too interested about ordinary people are too interested about the kind of political system or governance system that they run. I believe that if they have decent food on their tables, I believe that if they have decent work to do, earning decent salaries for the work that they are doing, they will not be too worried about whether it's a monarchy or it's other forms of systems. So my position or my thoughts on this matter is that let us have a way of engaging and dialoguing with our brothers and sisters, and for those who may be able to have access to the king, to also engage, to remind our brother that chieftaincy or traditional rulership is also dynamic. Traditions are dynamic, and therefore the systems that we inherited from our forefathers probably decades or centuries ago may not be the same system that would be run today, because the ideas of people change, the things people like also change from time to time. And because of modernism and the modern types of leadership and modern types of governance that we have, the whole role of traditional leadership has been eroded to a certain extent. But you see, at the end of the day, you are ruling over people, you are serving people. If they do not like the system and you stick to your guns, at the end of the day, there will be nobody for you to rule over. There will be nobody to serve you, and there will be nobody for you to serve. We are leaders over people, and therefore we must also think about those people and try to meet with them to know exactly what they want and how they want to be ruled. And I think that is the way by which we can get good governance as traditional leaders. It has been said severally by previous speakers that this is not a judgment on anybody. This is not an attack on anybody. We are putting our thoughts together to ensure that our brothers and sisters there get the best of whatever systems that they have, whatever governance systems that they have. But to recap my point, I just want to state that we must all realize, and particularly for our embroiled brother, must realize that as a traditional ruler, you are a trustee for your people, and therefore whatever decision you make, whatever actions you take, or even your inactions, at the end of the day, must be in the best interest of the people over which you rule. And I believe that for the people you are ruling over, these same people also you are serving, because you are serving their best interest. I will stop here and probably we can continue the discussion. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Your Highness. We appreciate you sharing with us. We will move on to the next speaker, His Royal Highness Enoch Abuyaji. I'm assuming he is online, and if you can take on your platform, Your Highness.
Moderator.
I guess I'm the same person. I have spoken already.
Oh.
It's done. We're going to King Godwin, I think.
I must be liking you. I like hearing your voice a lot, so I'm asking you to come back the second time around. My apologies.
I am very honored.
We have on our program the last speaker within the panel, unless the Royal Highness that
there are still two speakers.
King
Godwin and Chief Michael Okwaliga.
Yes. So we have Ambassador Chief Michael Okwalinga to take on the platform. Your Highness, you can assume the mic.
Thank you very much, Chair. Bayete, Your Majesties, Your Highnesses, Excellencies, religious and civic leaders, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, and all protocols observed. I'm greatly humbled to speak to you, to participate in this meeting, and I greatly thank Aido for arranging our presence here today. I'd like to start by offering my sincere condolences to all those who are in mourning and all those who are in pain or are injured. A lot of what I was going to say has already been spoken by other panelists before. So what I want to do is instead to take us back in time to a traditional rule in one part of Africa, that is my own part of Africa, which is Teso, which straddles Kenya and Uganda. Centuries ago, my ancestors must have faced a situation which is similar to the one we're trying to solve. Our Iteso people or nation comprises of about 7 million people in Uganda and Kenya, and are part of a larger Ateke group of people numbering close to 20 million individuals in Ethiopia, Kenya, South Sudan, Tanzania, and Uganda. Our leaders were and are still chosen by their own clans, in other words, by their paternal relatives. The leaders are chosen on the basis of ability, character, and integrity. Each clan leader is known and was known as Emoremor, which simply means a unifier, and is a chief and not a king. We've not had kings. His or her power was derived directly from his people and could be taken away by them if he abused his position or power. Although the unifiers had great power, they did not govern alone or even have absolute power. Each unifier was assisted by a council of elders, which advised and assisted in decision making. And although the unifiers usually headed their own clans, a few were able to govern several areas because they had unique abilities. Lower chiefs also existed to whom powers were ceded. For example, we had defense chiefs who coordinated defense across clans. We had hunting chiefs who coordinated hunting, trapping, fishing, and conservation. And we also had chiefs who were in charge of community work, which was designed to give and receive free labor in order to pursue the goal of achieving food security for all. Our chiefs, as I've said before, were chosen by their kin to whom they were directly answerable. It was extremely rare for a unifier to be succeeded by his son, unless that son had the qualities of leadership desired by the clan. So even in those cases, the sons were chosen on merit. Occasionally, a woman would be chosen to lead her clan. You might think that the society was entirely paternalistic, but this was not the case. Women born into a clan, even if married, could veto the choice of an heir, and therefore indirectly, they could veto the choice of a chief or a member of the council of elders if he or she was found wanting. So, you know, the potential leaders really had to make sure that they address the interests of their people. More recently, we've moved to choose one unifier to lead and oversee over our 2,000 clans. He is called Papa Emorimor to differentiate him from the leaders of the clans. And Papa Emorimor is a ceremonial unifier. In terms of dispute resolution, what did we do? We had one day of the week set aside, that is Thursday, which was the day of gathering, and was set aside for dispute resolution within clans or across clans, if a dispute involved people in two different clans. The parties in a dispute would be summoned to a meeting at dawn and would sit around a fire to present their cases with their supporting witnesses. The basis of resolution was to elicit facts, not punishment. And the final solution would be proposed by neutral elders. And the aim was to restore peace and harmony in the society and to prevent acts of revenge and further division that would cause. It was not to punish or ostracize the person found to be in the wrong. So how does this relate to the problem in Eswatini? I pray that the people of Eswatini are helped to find a long-lasting win-win situation or solution which allows for a traditional institution to remain in place and the population to coexist with that institution peacefully with mutual respect and in a situation where there are checks and balances to moderate and regulate the powers of individuals in positions of power and responsibility. It's very important that our traditional or cultural institutions are separated from, in my view, and insulated from the rigors of politics, which can often involve the harming or oppression of the king or queen's people. The primary role of a king or queen must and should remain to protect his or her people. This does not mean that our kings and queens will lose influence, but that influence should be channeled in a way that is politically neutral, wise, and conducive to the unity and peace in their communities, in their kingdoms. but the authority of the king or queen must derive from the people they rule and lead. Otherwise, it will neither survive nor work when it's needed most. I thank you for listening to me. Bayete, Bayete.
Bayete.
Bayete. We thank you, your Ambassador Chief, and we are grateful to all the speakers. I just want to check with my chair whether the speaker that had logged off because of connectivity is back on, or whether we make room or we close the panel.
We still have King Goodwin of the River State, Nigeria. He has not yet spoken.
Okay.
Please, Your Majesty,
yes.
Moderator, please.
Thank you, Chair. We'll call on then the last speaker, His Royal Highness Goodwin, Bebe of Babi. I hope I haven't mispronounced the name. We thank you that you've waited. They normally say you save the best for last. So this we have saved for you as we finish off the panel. Over to you, Your Royal Highness.
Please unmute. Please unmute. Your Majesty, please unmute. Unmute, please. Your microphone is on mute. Your Majesty, please unmute your microphone.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yeah, better.
We can hear you, Your Highness.
Yeah.
Okay. Let me thank Aido Network for giving me this opportunity to make my contribution. And I thank the chair and the moderator for this wonderful opportunity. Well, I didn't know much before this opportunity. I didn't know much about the Swaziland people. I didn't know much about them. When I was informed about this meeting about 2 days ago, I had to do some research work. And I saw that that's a unique way these people have been living for years, for ages. And they live under a monarchy. It's not, I don't believe in executive, what you call executive monarchy. But these people have been living quite a unique life all their life. First of all, let me send my condolences to the people of Swaziland, for the loss of life. And let me sympathize with my colleague, the monarch there, for the problems that is in the country now. But I want to say to the people of Swaziland, particularly the elites, 2 of whom spoke very well here, I believe Lincoln and Mdalu. And to say to you that the problem we are having today in your country is a problem that was brought to us by the colonial masters. And even us here in Nigeria, with all the democracy we are trying to practice and elsewhere in Africa, we are trying to see how we can bring in some level of our way, our own way of democracy, the African way of democracy, into the governance of our people. Monarchy and kingdoms are created by God. I'm a Christian, and God owns all of us. And the people that God was using to manage his people of the world in the past, were prophets. And after that, that God should pick one amongst the kings are supposed, like Kingdom said, we are supposed to be spiritual leaders. We are servants. And I want to plead with the both parties. You are the last traditional rulership. I don't want to call it monarchy or whatever, or democracy in Africa. All we need to do is to see how you can manage it. I bet you is the best. What I want to say to the king of Eswatini, Mswati III, is for him to know that his forefathers, at the time there were no luxuries. All these luxuries are things of the West. Whatever was within the kingdom of the Swatini people, his forefathers didn't take it all. They didn't take it all. They did not, if they did, we would have known. History would have recorded them. And so what he needs to do now is to see how he can incorporate, and I sympathize with him. The young man was not even brought up here. He was brought up, I hear, he went to school in the West. And so it's a big tragedy on all of us in Africa. But we need to see how we can get deep into the luxuries created by our people. Kings, when the righteous rules, the people rejoice. So apparently the father of the Swatinis need to get this. So what we need to do as traditional rulers, and I want to offer myself, like my colleague from Uganda, we can do advice to the monarch. I want to say to the external influence, as you go on to agitate, go on to try to provide the right solution and the right guidance to guide your father, the king, on how to see how he can allow the people of Swaziland govern themselves. And when the people are happy, he as the father should be better off. And so I am very worried that the way the situation is there now, we need to lead and guide the Eswatini people to know that, yes, maybe the person or the character of the person is the problem. It's not the institution of the monarchy there. What they need to do is to find a midway where democracy, the English way of ruling, the Western way of rulership, we put in our own way and meet at a point and we here wish that we can be like them and have the traditional rulers play a role, advisory role, not dictatorship, not being greedy of the paraphernalia of the Western corruption, private jets, all the luxuries here and there. That's not the African way. So it's a problem that we need to be careful. Let us not rush into condemning and completely condemning the traditional system of governance. But let us be careful on both parties, on both ways, because right now, people who are enjoying from the misrule, if I can use that term, are there. So many countries may be enjoying from that. Even the crisis that has befell the people of Swaziland in the past few months, there are people perhaps individuals. And so, my brothers, let us, but you need to know that there are several of your brothers and sisters in other African countries practicing the so-called democracy that we have organized. Now you have only your king and his family are taking everything. In some part of Africa, few clique of elite, political elites are doing the same thing that your king appeared to be doing. And I think that it's better that we resolve and mechanize, try to do some sort of engineering, political engineering, that we see that the way of life of the people, the beliefs and the values of the people is incorporated into governance. And the king has a great role to play in that future. So my prayer, therefore, for the people of Swaziland is I'm looking forward to see you to galvanize all the sophisticated traditional values that I know you have there. And you, the political elite, you have tried to look at all the mistakes all over the world in democracies, corruption, dictatorship, and see how you can find a way in between there to have an African grown type of
The experiencing connectivity problem.
Government.
We can
again thank the organizers of this. Thank all those who are. Can you hear me? Are you hearing me now?
Highness, we couldn't hear you earlier on.
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. Okay. So I'm almost coming to the conclusion of my point. I was just thanking you, the organizers of this, and to say to all of us, particularly the political elites of the Swaziland, to tread with caution and take example from what is happening all over the world, even where with the so-called democracy is being practiced. Look at the corruption, the oppression that is going on there. And this will guide you. You have your rich culture. And again, you need to sympathize with the king. The king, I heard, left the country when he was a little baby and then came back when he was an adolescent. So, so that's the problem there. So I am not here to support what is going on there from what I've gathered.
But I just want to say that I give my support to the both parties, particularly the political elites and the people of Swaziland. But we need to be careful. Don't get so angry and say, okay, we don't want our king anymore. We don't want monarchy. No. You have the best. What you have now, so many African countries who are so-called practicing democracy are looking for it. So God Almighty will help you, the people of Swaziland, and my brothers Lincoln and Ndula. I am in your support. My colleague, the Ambo King, I also I learn a lot listening to you. So I thank you so much, and may God bless you all.
Thank you, Your Highness. We have a speaker that was disconnected because of connectivity. His Royal Highness Papa Sunday Emelot. The technical team has advised that he's back online. We just want to afford him the opportunity to finish off the speech that he had prepared and what he was going to share with us. Over to you, Your Royal Highness.
Hello?
We can hear you loud and clear.
Are you getting me?
We can hear you, Your Highness.
Yeah, we can hear you.
First of all, I would like to thank you for this opportunity. I like to say, Emuria Koliai. First and foremost, I would like to extend my greetings to the Royal Majesties. I would like to extend my greetings to Aido family and all the invited guests who are in this meeting. I will not talk much. Much has been said and explained. First of all, I would like to again appreciate Aido for organizing this meeting in respect of what is happening in our brothers in Eswatini. I would like also to join them and convey my condolences for those families who have lost lives, that we are standing with you together. Straight to the point, I've been also following what has been happening in Eswatini. And indeed, it is unfortunate what is happening there in Eswatini. To my colleagues, the kingdom of Eswatini is a very unique kingdom in Africa. This is a kingdom which is wielding executive powers, is the head of government. So it is my humble prayer that for us to come in as traditional leaders to help our brothers have a solution in Eswatini. We'd like to call upon our traditional leaders who have got reliable contacts with the kingdom of Eswatini. Now that we have heard from the civil society represented by those two other brothers of ours, they have told us all the background of what is happening there. You find that there's a lot of imbalance, a big gap between the people and their king and the kingdom. So an observant of conflict resolutions, give an example recently of the Southern Sudan. IGAD tried to bring peace, bring the two leaders together in Southern Sudan, but it didn't work out. But until there was a very reliable contact in the Vatican, which made the Pope himself to come in. When the Pope invited these two leaders to Rome, you saw what happened. When the Pope came to welcome the president of Southern Sudan, Salva Kiir, he bowed down and kissed his feet. And he told him, on behalf of the people of Sudan, we need peace. So my brothers, the Royal Majesties, the only solution is for us to bring the two parties on board. We as concerned traditional leaders, let's get reliable contact with the Kingdom of Eswatini so that a few of us can be able to share with him and also get a few representatives. First of all, we need to share with him the concerns which his people have raised. Then from there, we shall easily get a way forward to bring the other party on board so that we can be able to harmonize the situation. Given that we have had the history that it was the students who started the protest, which means those students have got a reason why they went to the streets. Other concerned citizens. So I would say that let us, through Aido, you could pursue that point that way so that we can get opportunity to share with our colleague the problems he has in his country. Otherwise, the situation is not good, but through dialogue, we shall be able to have a solution. That is my humble prayer and request, that through Aido, let's pursue that. We shall be able to get a solution and peace will prevail. Because now in Africa, we need each and everybody. These are all our brothers, we need peace. We shall not be happy, other traditional leaders in others this side, when others, our brothers from the other side, are losing lives. Indeed, finally, I would like to thank all my colleagues who have given in their views. I would like to thank Aido for this initiative. It is our humble prayer that God blesses you so that we get to the bottom of this problem so that we can be of help to our brothers over Eswatini. Thank you very much. Emuri Akoliai.
Emuri Akoliai.
Thank you, Your Highness. My job is almost done here that I was asked to do. I will just ask the chair to just thank the panel that was with us and maybe just give directive before I give the summary of the points of what was summarized today. The intent for the chair will explain more was not just for a dialogue, but also to have a way forward. So there might have been history covered, but there's definitely a future where we're going. The engagement today was just a launch, but there is definitely momentum that will gather, and I'll let him cover the next steps that will happen from here. Over to you, Your Royal Highness.
To all my kings. Thank you very much. We have all learned a lot today. All of you, you have given us a very good insight to the situation. we did not come here to have a talk show. We come here to decide what action to take. Your guidance has been very, very helpful. The summaries will be given to us. From the summaries, we hope to come up with a few resolutions. However, before the moderator could give us the resolution, I would like to pick out one or two key issues. His Imperial Majesty King Bongani opened the floor, giving us straightforward. As traditional rulers, we are supposed to be the guidelines. You are supposed to guide the rest. Kings Swalikazi, the second, also spoke very well. So all the traditional rulers have given us very, very good insight. This is our immediate entry to conflict resolution. Taking in mind that the civil societies that presented the case to us, they gave us data, they give us details. So we know human rights are being abused. I think that is one of our first intervention. The human rights abuses, what is happening there. We may not have the full picture now, but I believe that when we end this meeting today, we may have other meetings, which obviously we need a resolution from you. We need a mandate from the traditional rulers and the civil societies. Us as Action Support Center, Aido Network International, we are ready to move further with this situation. One of the things I picked from Papa Sunday Emolot, there are also an opportunity of intervention from the Roman Catholic, the Pope, assuming that a king is a Catholic or is a Christian. So we have got many avenues. But as I said earlier, we need to start with African solutions for African problems. Working with Aido Ubuntu Committee, we shall come up with a report within 24 hours that will be presented to all the key stakeholders who have attended this meeting today. That report will obviously guide us. We also hope that through this report, a delegation or a smaller team of our kings who are familiar or closer to the king of Swaziland or Eswatini should make a formal communication or a formal contact with His Majesty. So I believe that we take the first approach because traditional rulers in Africa, for once, are intervening to such a situation. But bear in mind, we are losing our brothers and sisters each and every day. So we call ourselves Aidoers because we want to walk the talk. So when we say action, let's walk the talk. So walking the talk is acting on what we agree this morning. Your Majesties, Your Highnesses, ladies and gentlemen, I would like us to hear the summary of today's meeting before we give the opportunity to the floor to ask the question. Your Highness Sifokazi, would you like to bring the summaries or should we give the audience to contribute briefly?
I do see maybe if we can make room just for 2 questions or 2 comments. I'm just gonna plead with whichever speaker that we pick right now. I see Princess Mabandla Masego has had his hand up for a while. And so we will give, that's the only hand that I see. We only have space for 2 minutes, each person maximum, and 3 speakers, and then afterwards we move to concluding. I'm just mindful of the time that we have already taken, as we've already gone over in terms of the planning. So there is Princess Mabandla Maseko. I see there is Dr. Shaik. I'm not going to take.
No, it's Dr. Sheikh Ramzi. That's the head of the Muslim community in the United Kingdom.
All right. We will have Dr. Sheikh Ramzi, and then we'll also have His Royal Highness Prince Dlamini. Where has Lalu is there? 1 minute, 2 minutes maximum, I'm pleading. And afterwards, so that we can go to summary. Those will be the comments from the floor that we'll take. Prince Mabandla Maseko, I'm just unmuting you, and then you can lower your hand and share your comment or question with us. Prince Mabandla Maseko, your hand is up, or was it an old hand? Then maybe I can ask Dr. Sheikh Ramzi.
Yes, good afternoon to all, of course, from the United Kingdom, London. I greet you with Islamic greeting of peace. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. May the blessing of Almighty God be upon you all. My deepest sadness and condolence to the people who lost their lives and the people who suffered in Swaziland. It is tragedy if even one person dies. Of course, coming to the point, we as a Aido need to advise, united need to advise the king to be just and to help their people instead of to helping himself, because the king has a limited. If he goes more than a limited, it becomes the tyrant. Of course, the king is like a father, is someone we see as in Islamic, of course, as a representing Muslim in the United Kingdom. We see as a kind of hand of the Almighty God, kind of representing the Almighty God to their people, because they are religion and religious people, and they believe in the Almighty God. Therefore, he has to be just. It's very important to be just. And if he did not, he has to be advised to how he can be just by the, of course, by the religious people, by the political people, whatever they are there. Therefore, it is very important to advise and intervene. I believe if the Aido, which are united with the all brothers, which are king and queens, which they can advise and bring a united Africa, and it is possible. Hand in hand, when I started with the Aido, I saw the idea which they have. It will bring, and by the grace of God, will bring a unity to whole Africa, and this is what we need, because Africa is the most intelligent, I tell you, most intelligent people in Africa, and most richest in a mineral and all the gold and whatever in Africa. And the best fertilized land we have in Africa, then what happening to us? Therefore, because it's this unity of the brothers and sisters making us like that, therefore I plead to all my brothers and sisters which become united and make Africa beautiful again and leading the world. And God bless you. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Dr. Ramzi. Prince Maseko.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much. I know we all want to attend for peace, but I just want to say in a very, very short manner, the Masagos have always been trying to get their land back, and their land back comprises Swaziland and the outer regions. And unfortunately, until the government of South Africa hears our plea, what's happening in Swaziland is, it may be strange to other people, but if we are following the true history of the Swati people, then we would understand that the Masagos have always been crying to get their land back. And unfortunately, things will not get back to normalcy, or things will not come to peace in Swaziland until the Masagos are given their land back. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Prince Maseko. Last hand up, Mr. Vuem Dalu. I'm assuming it's a Mr. Apologies if it's not, and because viewers could be a male or female.
Ngos.
I'd like to greet everyone, kings and chiefs, and everyone on this platform. In fact, it's just my platform that I'm using as my name directly. I'm a chief. I'm Chief Mdalu Kachabadia in Abatembu Kingdom, Mtata. Bayete to all the kings and chiefs in this platform and everyone, the civil society in the platform. My concern was that I think I posted one of my concern because chat, because I thought I'll leave before I could advise or put my comment. It looks like we are here and already we have known and understand everything in Swaziland from the one-sided community that have spoken about Swaziland. Because my question is that, what if we would get another side of the story from the king himself, which is King Mswati III? And I'm very hungry for that side, because in South Africa, as we speak, we have not realized this democracy that we have been promised of. We've seen Marikana, we've seen many things that have been happening in this world, and we as the people think this is right. We're not aware that this is deliberately done to fight for our land, to take our land into control of the white people that colonized us before. So I'm living with a society that is very confused because people think politics is the only way to live these days. I've seen culture in Swaziland that is beauty for the entire Africa, that we can even think we can go back to our roots because of what Swazilanders engage in their culture. I've heard King Mswati talk about this God that everyone is talking about here. I heard King Mswati trying to dismiss such violence to the people of Swaziland, that people must not be totally beaten up because they want justice, or they want to a platform where they can speak their problems. But why is that? Have we listened enoughly or something? Maybe we have concluded that it is King Mswati himself that has made the chaos in Swaziland. The places that have been bent up in Swaziland, they were not bent up by people of Swaziland. Those are thugs taking chances of the strike that has been made by people who want answers. And I think there is a platform there, but the platform for that must come honestly, respectfully towards the king. I don't think if kings that have spoken here today, I don't think they're in a position that they can even sit down with the king, because looks like they have already taken a decision that King Mswati has been greedy and this brutal person and everyone. So I'm pleading to everyone in this platform. And I even said, we might also have chiefs and kings in these platforms that they don't even realize or they don't experience the practical running of kingdoms. Look now, we have our own king, King Dalingebo is from jail, but he went to jail because he wanted to emphasize a point of not being ruled by colonial systems. So I so plea to everyone, my chairperson, to please have a room of this other side of the story, so that we listen to both sides of the story and then we come down and try and solve the situation. Because not everyone in Swaziland is not happy of the monarchy and the way the country has been run. But it looks like some of them, they want to push politics, and we will realize what is today happening in South Africa with our former President Jacob Zuma and the current government that is running the country. So please, people, let us open our minds and know that our traditional leadership and our customs, we need to go back to our customs, because this country won't be healthy, and God can see this. By it.
Thank you very much, Chief. Allow me to respond you directly. That is actually where you have spoken very well. First of all, I should commend you for that positive and strong position that we need to listen to both sides of the coin. Yes, I agree with you. We obviously, that's why we called this first meeting. And I think the next point of stop is to have dialogue direct with His Majesty, the King of Eswatini. I thank you again to eloquently brought the side of the argument to the House. The kings who have spoken, I don't think they have taken sides. All our information, we are responding to what has been brought to us. Where the issues of human rights are concerned, normally leaders are accountable. Regardless if you are the leader, if something happens under your watch, as civil societies, our first reaction is to the leadership. Thank you very much. Would you please leave your contact with the Secretariat here, Her Highness Ipokazi. We are going to have that meeting with the leadership of Eswatini. Thank you very much. Bye. Back to the moderator.
Thank you for those comments. They really lifted up the conversation. And they also just gave me 1 minute to have 3 sips of tea, just so I can get my energy back before I do the summaries. It has been, I first want to thank you for, there's still going to be vote of thanks that will follow. Mine is to do the summaries, but you've been patient with us and been patient with all the speakers. We have spent about 2.5 to 3 hours engaging, but it was content worth it. It was a topic that was worth the time of your life for you to dedicate to this conversation. It is a beginning conversation, and like Your Royal Highness already mentioned, there are action points and follow-on conversations. Everyone that commented on the group, we have kept those messages. The technical team has already got them signed up. If you do want to engage with us further, I saw also on YouTube, we had about 240 people logged in. We're sitting at about 260 now. Do put in your comments and your contact details if you want us to be in touch with you going forward. There is going to be continuum of the conversation of the chiefs and the leadership and traditional leaders engaging with civil society on African topics. Back to the summary points. There was a call. I'm not gonna move to the discussion topics more than I'm gonna move to the calls that were made to then say, these are the calls that we've yielded that will be on the document that His Royal Highness Poleganda mentioned that in the next 24 hours, they'll be sent through. Also, if you wanna be in touch with us directly, you can send an email to info@aidonetwork.org. Aido Network is AIDO, network is all one word, .org. The other email that you can use is the one for action for conflict and transformation. It is also on the group. I'll just call it out when we finish with the summary points. The first point, a call for action, is that the traditional leadership engages with Africa Union and SADC to assist with the cease of violence. And that is the first point that has been adopted as an action point. The second point is the establishment of robust structures for a genuine dialogue between King Mswati and the people of Eswatini. Attached to that would then be a call for African monarchy to engage with King Mswati on the proper way to conduct himself and engage with the people. There is a point on accountability that monarchies and the kings apply to each other and how that framework and engagement would work. Tabulated by Bishop Paul Ferrein, that the traditional leadership need to converse among themselves in a dialogue to respond to the issues for people's self-determination, access to economic opportunities, and again, the first one that I mentioned, the end to the violence, which talks to the respect of human rights. There is a last point on a peer review mechanism, which will allow monarchies to share ideas on how to best serve their people. Almost on a helicopter view, I am aware each one of those points gets into detail. And I think the last speaker, Ngosi Maseko, had mentioned as well that once there is an engagement, then we'll be able to have a balanced view of the issues that are raised. There are also organizations that dropped their statements and documents, which we will unpack and then add them on to the summary items. I hope I have summarized well, and will then hand back. I can see these other messages coming in with email addresses. We will take heed of those and also link them up to the ones that we have collected. There is a comment as well, also from the African Youth Indigenous Leaders, wanting to engage, and I'm grateful for the platform that has been opened. We acknowledge that comment. The last speaker for the day, so that we may close off, is Ambassador Priti Mncube.
The moderator, allow us get permission and mandate from the traditional leaders whether we have the mandate to proceed with action points as raised by themselves. We need a secondment for this action point to take place. So I would like to be seconded by at least one king and a leader of civil society based inside Swaziland. May I have the secondment of His Imperial Majesty King Bongani III? Are we okay to proceed with this action? Are we okay to proceed with these actions?
Please proceed.
Can we get a secondment from the leader of the civil society, especially on human rights? Those who made speeches this morning.
I do agree, and I give the undertaking. Thank you very much.
Please mention your name so that we have it on record.
My name is Colette Litlujane. I'm the Executive Director of the Human Rights Institute of South Africa. We are based here in South Africa. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So we need one more. I think I would love to take one from the chief from the Swaziland who last spoke, Mwiwe. Are you okay with the action point that we have suggested? The last speaker who contributed from the audience, the chief. His name was Mwiwe, I think, the last speaker. Yes.
Viwe. No, I think I'm fine.
Yes. Do you second the action point that we have suggested to move forward?
Yes.
Thank you.
I think everything is fine.
Thank you very much. Your Majesties, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to put these actions into paper. We're going to have a report in the next 24 hours, which we shall share with all of you. That record will form our next form of action. I believe we're going to have another meeting coming soon. And I believe that we may have to go back the same panel here and have a select committee to take the first step of our dialogue today. So ladies and gentlemen, I appreciate your time, all your contributions that have made us richer. Aido Ubuntu committee, I request you also to work in hand with the Secretariat in South Africa so that our team in the UK is also ready for the next action. That's Mr. Martin Whiteman. Back to the moderator. Thank you. Your Highness Ipokazi, are you there? Okay, may I invite Princess Pretty to make the...
I'm back on, Your Highness. If we can invite Ambassador Pretty Mncube to do the vote of thanks and closing remarks for us.
Bayete.
Bayete.
Yes, I think my job is very easy and I would not really want to say much because our kings have spoken. I would just thank everyone for their input and their contribution. Comrade Venetia, Governor, thank you so much. You have always been, someone who's always working for the people. We called you last hour, you always avail yourself. So thank you so much for today, for your contribution. Colette, my sister, we've been together in the struggle of Swaziland. Thank you so much for your inputs as well. My Bishop Poverin, what can I say? You have always been like a father to us. Be it Zimbabwe Solidarity, DRC, Lesotho, wherever we need you, you'll always be there. Comrade Mandla, for sharing. Today we learned a lot. There's a lot that some of us didn't know about the history of Swaziland. Thank you so much for educating us. Comrade Wandile, hallelujah. And I'm sure our president, Comrade Mario, where he's sleeping, he's proud of you. You have always been there, consistent, and the fact that you still continue the struggle, fighting for the people of Swaziland. We thank you so much for your love and passion, for trying to make sure, working everyone to make sure that the people of Swaziland get the freedom that they deserve. I mean, it's been years working with you in solidarity to try and make sure that people of Swaziland have a decent life. Thank you so much, and we are with you in the struggle. Now to our kings, His Imperial Majesty King Bongani III. Thank you so much for your wisdom. We always learn from you. You are our mentor, our teacher, our guide. Thank you for God. Thank you the fact that God has chosen you to be with us and share with us in today's meeting like you always do. King Mzilikazi of Umtwagazi, Ababa, thank you so much. I know every time when we ask you last minute, you always there for us. And for sharing those insights and also committing to be part of the delegation that is going to try and solve this problem for our brothers and sisters in Swaziland. His Royal Highness Goodwin, for your words and for your wisdom. Thank you so much. Hoping to visit you in Nigeria to learn a lot from you. Honorable Bernard, thank you so much for your insight, and we hope that we'll continue learning from you. His Royal Highness Papa Sunday, I know we almost missed your inputs there. The network was giving you a hard time, but thank you that you managed to speak to us and share your insight and your wisdom with us. Lastly, our human rights leader in Aido, Mr. Martin. I almost said comrade because that's the language that we are used to on the ground. Thank you so much for really sharing with us, and I know that you continue working with us to making sure that all the the points and the objectives that has been raised here are realized, and we will continue engaging with you, and we really ask you to continue leading us in this human rights program that we want to embark on, and to everyone else for your contribution. And I know some of you, we've been really working hard together in the past years, and what we have seen happening in Swaziland is not something that started last 2 months ago, like other comrades have said. Thank you so much for your continuation of supporting the people in Swaziland. And we hope that as we continue with the struggle, we'll work together. I think for the first time, we are going to work with our kings to make sure that the country of Swaziland is at peace again. My leader, my president, my chief, Your Highness, Paul Eganda, thank you so much. I know you have not been sleeping, bothering you at night to say, this is what's happening. Can you come on board and work with us and invite our kings across the continent? Thank you so much for being a servant of the people. To my princess, Siphoka Samandla, wow, what can we say? You are God sent. Someone put on the platform in our group to say our #1 moderator on earth. That's our Queen International. You are right, Queen International. Thank you so much, Siphoka. You have done a wonderful job today. And of course, my Queens International, I know you have not said anything today, but I know you are with us in this journey. Thank you so much for your support and love. And yeah, once again, thank you so much. And we did get a call. Prodemo is celebrating today. The meeting has started now in 3, and I'll encourage all of us to join and support them. Thank you so much, and God bless.
Bayete, thank you very much, Ambassador Pretty. I would also like to take this opportunity to thank the Ubuntu Human Rights Committee of Aido Network International that has worked very, very hard within a short time to come up with the we have seen today. Of course, the Action Center, Action Support Center, our partners, we have a long way to go. We have a lot to do, but mostly our kings, Nana Enoch Aboje is one of the outstanding lawyers who is also a king amidst us. We are going to work closely with him to see that we have some things done properly. So on behalf of Aido Network International, I would like to first of all say thank you so much, all my kings, the Board of Governors, the Board of Directors of Aido Network International, the governance team, Sheikh Dr. Ramzi, thank you very much for your words of advice. Just for the record, Dr. Sheikh Ramzi is involved in peace negotiations that are happening in Israel and Palestine. He's quite a big asset in being here with us. He's one of our advisors in Aido Network International, and he's also director of Oxford University in the United Kingdom. So we have brought all our big guns to this meeting just to make sure that they guide us what's the best way to go. Your Highnesses, Your Majesties, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to now close this meeting and give you our last salutation. Bayete, Bayete, Bayete Bungane, Bayete all our kings. Let's go in peace. Long live Palestine. Long live our people of Eswatini. We are with you. We pray with you. Bayete.
Bayete.
Bayete. You can go at later.
God bless you all. God bless you all.
Heritage.
Wow, wow, wow. Bye. Okay. Thank you. Bye. Bye.
Bye, Colette.
It was a long, long, long event. Hey, my goodness. Thank God. We were blessed. Awesome.